Most people do not fail at gardening because they lack skill. They fail because life gets busy. Work becomes demanding. The weather turns hot. A week passes without watering. Weeds appear everywhere, and the vegetables that once looked healthy begin struggling. Before long, the garden feels like another full-time job. But growing food does not have to mean spending every afternoon watering, pruning, spraying, tying, fertilizing, and pulling weeds. Some vegetables are naturally easier than others. They tolerate imperfect soil. They recover after dry periods. They resist many common problems. And once they become established, they can keep producing with very little attention. That does not mean you can plant them and completely forget they exist. Every vegetable needs some sunlight, water, and basic care. But the 8 crops in this video are far more forgiving than demanding plants such as cauliflower, celery, or large slicing tomatoes. They are ideal for busy gardeners, beginners, older growers, and anyone who wants fresh food without turning the garden into a daily struggle. Some produce food in only a few weeks. Others cover the soil so weeds have less room to grow, and one vegetable can remain in the ground for years, returning every spring with almost no work from you. Stay until the end, because number 8 may be the closest thing to a permanent vegetable patch. Before we begin, remember that the easiest crop is usually the one suited to your climate. A vegetable that grows effortlessly in a hot southern garden may struggle in a short, cool season. Choose varieties recommended for your region, plant them at the correct time, and give them a strong beginning. The first few weeks still matter. Once their roots become established, the work becomes much easier. Now let us get into it. Number 1. Radishes. Radishes are one of the fastest and easiest vegetables you can grow. Many varieties are ready to harvest in less than a month. That means you can sow the seeds, water them, and begin pulling food from the soil before slower crops have even reached a useful size. Radishes are perfect for gardeners who want quick results. Plant the seeds directly into loose soil. There is no need to start them indoors, buy expensive transplants, or build complicated supports. Make a shallow row, sow the seeds, cover them lightly, and water. The main mistake is planting them too close together. Crowded radishes produce large leaves and tiny roots. Follow the spacing on the seed packet, or thin the seedlings soon after they emerge. Thinning sounds like extra work, but it takes only a few minutes and can determine whether you harvest real radishes or a bundle of leaves. Radishes prefer cool weather. Plant them in spring or autumn rather than during the hottest part of summer. In mild climates, you may be able to grow them through winter. They need regular moisture, but their short growing period means you will not be maintaining them for months. Water deeply when the upper soil begins drying. A light mulch can reduce evaporation and keep the soil cooler. Radishes rarely need heavy feeding. In fact, too much nitrogen encourages foliage instead of roots. If your soil is reasonably fertile, they may need no additional fertilizer. They also fit between slower crops. You can sow radishes around young broccoli, tomatoes, peppers, or cabbage plants. The radishes will be ready to harvest before the larger vegetables need the space. Harvest on time. Leaving radishes in the ground for too long can make them tough, woody, or hollow. The easiest way to have a continuous supply is sowing a small row every week or two instead of planting the entire packet at once. Radishes give busy gardeners a fast harvest without months of care. Number 2. Bush beans. Bush beans are simple, productive, and do not require a trellis. Unlike pole beans, they grow into compact plants that support themselves. You can plant a short row, a raised bed, or a large container and allow the plants to do most of the work. Wait until the soil becomes warm. Cold, wet ground can cause the seeds to rot. Once the weather is suitable, sow the beans directly where they will grow. Beans usually dislike unnecessary transplanting, so direct sowing saves time and avoids root disturbance. Cover the seeds, water the area, and keep the soil slightly moist until seedlings appear. After establishment, bush beans are relatively forgiving. They need full sun and steady moisture during flowering and pod development, but they do not need constant fertilizing. Beans work with soil bacteria to obtain nitrogen. Applying too much nitrogen fertilizer can create large leafy plants with very few beans. A layer of mulch keeps the roots moist and reduces weeds. Once the leaves spread, they shade much of the soil beneath them. The most important job is harvesting. Pick the pods every few days while they are young and tender. Regular harvesting encourages the plants to produce more flowers. If mature beans remain on the plant, it begins focusing on seed production and may slow down. This is not difficult work. A quick walk through the row every 2 or 3 days is usually enough. Bush beans have a shorter productive period than pole beans, but that can be useful for busy gardeners. The plants produce heavily, then finish. You can pull them, add healthy material to the compost, and use the space for another crop. For a longer harvest, sow a second group 2 or 3 weeks after the first. As the older plants slow down, the younger plants begin producing. Number 3. Swiss chard. Swiss chard is one of the most forgiving leafy vegetables. It tolerates cool weather, handles heat better than spinach, and produces leaves for months. Once the plants become established, you can harvest repeatedly without replanting. Chard grows well from seed. Sow it directly into the garden or begin it in containers and transplant the seedlings carefully. Each seed cluster may produce more than one seedling, so some thinning may be needed. Give the plants enough space. Mature chard leaves can become large, and crowded plants trap moisture and compete for light. The plant grows from a central crown. Harvest the oldest outer leaves by cutting the stems near the base. Leave the younger center leaves untouched. New foliage continues emerging from the middle. You do not need to harvest the entire plant. Take only what you need for a meal and return later. The leaves and stems are both edible. The thick stems may need a longer cooking time, so many people separate them from the leaves. Chard prefers fertile soil and consistent moisture, but it can recover from occasional neglect better than lettuce or spinach. Mulching around the plants reduces watering and keeps weeds from taking over. Remove yellow or damaged leaves when you see them. This takes only seconds and improves airflow around the crown. Chard may develop minor insect damage, but healthy plants often continue producing even when a few leaves have holes. You do not need to spray every time you notice an imperfect leaf. In mild climates, Swiss chard may survive winter and produce again. Even when frost damages the outer foliage, the crown may remain alive. Wait for warmer weather before assuming the plant is dead. A small patch can provide greens through several seasons with very little maintenance. Number 4. Zucchini. Zucchini has a reputation for producing more food than gardeners can use. One healthy plant can supply an entire household. The plant needs space, sunlight, rich soil, and regular water, but once it begins producing, the harvest can be enormous. Choose a compact bush variety if your garden is small. Plant 1 or 2 seeds in a mound, or transplant one healthy seedling after the soil has warmed. Do not plant a large number unless you have a plan for the harvest. Zucchini grows quickly. Its broad leaves shade the soil and suppress many weeds beneath the plant. Once the canopy develops, you may have very little weeding around it. Mulch the root zone before the plant becomes large. This holds moisture and keeps developing fruit away from wet soil. Water deeply at the base. Avoid soaking the leaves late in the day because zucchini can develop fungal problems, including powdery mildew. A drip line or soaker hose saves time and keeps the foliage drier. Pollination is sometimes the biggest challenge. Zucchini produces separate male and female flowers. Female flowers have a small squash behind them. If those tiny fruits turn yellow and fall, pollination may be incomplete. Bees usually handle the work. Grow flowers nearby, and avoid spraying insecticides around open blossoms. You can hand-pollinate when necessary, but many gardens will not need it. The main responsibility is harvesting. Check beneath the leaves every day or two. A small zucchini can become enormous very quickly. Pick the fruit while it is young and tender. Large, mature fruit remains edible in some recipes, but the skin and seeds become tougher. Regular harvesting also encourages continued production. Zucchini is not completely effortless. It needs water and frequent picking. But the amount of food produced from one plant makes the work extremely rewarding. Number 5. Green onions. Green onions are ideal for gardeners who want a crop that fits almost anywhere. They grow in narrow rows, containers, window boxes, bed edges, and spaces between larger vegetables. They do not require deep soil, complicated supports, or frequent feeding. You can grow them from seed, small bulbs, or rooted bases from store-bought green onions. For the fastest results, plant sets or established seedlings. Place them in loose soil with good drainage. Keep the area moist while the roots become established. After that, green onions usually need only normal watering. Weeds can be a problem when the plants are young because their narrow leaves do not shade the ground. A thin layer of mulch helps reduce weed growth. Once the plants are larger, harvesting is simple. You can pull the entire onion or cut the green leaves several inches above the soil. When the roots and lower base remain alive, new leaves may grow. You can also remove selected outer leaves and leave the center intact. This gives you repeated harvests from the same plants. Bunching onions are especially useful for long-term production. Unlike bulb onions, they are grown mainly for their leaves and may form clusters over time. Some perennial types can remain in the garden for years. Green onions also tolerate cool weather. In many climates, they can grow during periods when heat-loving vegetables have stopped. A small patch near the kitchen provides fresh flavor whenever you need it. There is no trellising, pruning, or complicated harvest schedule. Number 6. Kale. Kale is tough. It survives cold temperatures, tolerates occasional neglect, and keeps producing when more delicate greens have failed. Some varieties become sweeter after frost. That makes kale one of the best low-maintenance vegetables for cool climates. Plant seeds directly or use transplants. Give the plants enough spacing, because mature leaves can become large. Add compost before planting and apply mulch around the roots. Once established, kale usually needs little more than water and harvesting. Take the largest lower leaves first. Leave several healthy upper leaves and protect the growing tip. New leaves continue forming from the center. Do not pull the entire plant after one harvest. A single kale plant can produce for months. The main difficulty is caterpillar damage. Cabbage butterflies and moths may lay eggs on the leaves. The easiest low-work solution is prevention. Cover young plants with fine insect netting immediately after planting. Secure the edges so insects cannot enter. Because kale does not need insect pollination for leaf production, the cover can remain in place for most of the season. This one step may save hours of hand-picking caterpillars. Inspect the leaves occasionally, especially if the cover develops holes. Remove yellow or damaged lower foliage. Kale can survive frost, and in some climates, winter, beneath protection. Warm weather may eventually cause it to flower. The young flower shoots are edible and can be cooked like broccoli. Even at the end of its life cycle, the plant may provide one final harvest. Number 7. Sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes are perfect for hot gardens and busy growers. They thrive in warm weather, spread across the ground, suppress weeds, and produce edible roots beneath the soil. The leaves are also edible. Start with slips, which are rooted shoots grown from a sweet potato. Plant them after the soil becomes thoroughly warm. Cold conditions slow growth and may damage the young plants. Choose a sunny location with loose, well-drained soil. Sweet potatoes can grow in raised beds, garden rows, or large grow bags. Once established, the vines spread rapidly. They cover bare ground and create a living mulch that blocks sunlight from many weeds. This means less weeding during the hottest part of the year. The vines also protect the soil from extreme heat and reduce evaporation. Water regularly while the slips are developing roots. After establishment, sweet potatoes tolerate short dry periods better than many vegetables. Deep watering during long droughts improves root production. Avoid excessive nitrogen fertilizer. Too much nitrogen creates a huge mass of vines, while the edible roots remain small. If the soil contains reasonable fertility, the plants may need little additional feeding. Young leaves and tender vine tips can be harvested and cooked as greens. Take only a small amount so the plant retains enough foliage to produce energy for the roots. The main challenge is waiting. Sweet potatoes need a long, warm season. Harvest before frost damages the vines. Dig carefully because the roots bruise easily. After harvesting, cure them in warm, humid conditions according to recommended methods. Curing improves flavor and storage life. Sweet potatoes require some effort at planting and harvest, but the long middle period is remarkably easy. The vines largely take care of themselves. Number 8. Asparagus. Asparagus is the closest thing on this list to a permanent vegetable crop. Plant it once, care for it during establishment, and the same bed may produce for many years. But asparagus requires patience. You should not expect a full harvest during the first season. The plant needs time to develop a strong crown and deep root system. Starting with healthy crowns can reduce the weight compared with seed. Choose the location carefully because asparagus should remain there for a long time. It needs full sun, well-drained soil, and enough space for the tall fern-like growth that appears after harvest. Prepare the bed before planting. Remove perennial weeds and improve the soil with compost. This early work matters because removing deep-rooted weeds becomes difficult once asparagus crowns are established. Plant according to the depth recommended for your crowns and local conditions. Keep the bed watered during establishment. Apply mulch to reduce weeds and hold moisture. During the first year, allow the shoots to grow into ferns. Do not harvest heavily. The ferns capture sunlight and send energy back into the underground crown. In later years, harvest spears during the appropriate spring period. Cut or snap them when they reach useful size. Stop harvesting after several weeks and allow the remaining shoots to grow into ferns. Those ferns feed the next year's crop. In autumn or winter, after the foliage turns brown and dies naturally, cut it down and remove it from the bed. This helps reduce pest and disease problems. Then add compost or mulch as needed. Asparagus is not an instant crop, but once the bed matures, the yearly work is small compared with the harvest. There is no annual seed starting, no yearly transplanting, no repeated bed preparation. The same roots return every spring. For a busy gardener planning for the future, few vegetables offer a better long-term return. The real secret to a low-work garden. Choosing easy vegetables is only the beginning. The way you design the garden determines how much work it requires. Start with mulch. A layer of straw, shredded leaves, compost, or another suitable material suppresses weeds and reduces water loss. Apply it after the soil warms and the seedlings become established. Keep mulch away from stems and crowns to prevent rot. Next, use drip irrigation or a soaker hose. Hand watering every plant becomes exhausting during summer. A simple irrigation line delivers water directly to the soil and can be connected to a timer. Check the system regularly to make sure every plant receives water. One blocked emitter can leave a crop dry. Grow crops close enough to shade the soil without creating overcrowding. When leaves cover the ground, fewer weed seeds receive sunlight. Sweet potatoes and zucchini are especially useful for this. Keep the garden near the house. A small bed close to the kitchen receives more attention than a larger garden hidden at the far end of the property. You notice problems sooner and harvest more regularly. Finally, plant only the amount you can manage. 8 healthy plants are more useful than 80 struggling ones. A small, productive garden is not a failure. It is efficient. Crops busy gardeners may want to avoid. Some vegetables are rewarding, but demand more attention. Cauliflower can be sensitive to heat, cold, nutrition, and timing. Celery needs consistent moisture and fertile soil. Large tomatoes require staking, pruning decisions, feeding, and frequent watering. Melons need space, warmth, pollination, and protection from pests. Head lettuce can bolt quickly during warm weather. These crops are not impossible. But when your schedule is already full, Beginning with forgiving vegetables creates a better experience. You can always add more demanding crops later. Use perennials whenever possible. Asparagus is not the only vegetable that can return for years. Depending on your climate, you may also grow rhubarb, Jerusalem artichokes, perennial onions, sorrel, tree collards, artichokes, or certain perennial kale varieties. Not every crop suits every region. Rhubarb struggles in hot climates. Artichokes may not survive severe winters without protection. Jerusalem artichokes spread aggressively and can become difficult to remove. Research the crop before planting it. Perennial vegetables reduce yearly work because the roots remain in place. The garden begins growing before you have even purchased spring seeds. Create a 10-minute routine. A low-work garden still benefits from regular observation. Spend 10 minutes walking through it every few days. Check the soil. Harvest anything ready. Pull weeds while they are small. Look beneath several leaves for pests. Remove damaged produce. Guide spreading vines away from paths. 10 minutes prevents problems from becoming weekend-long projects. The gardener who checks frequently does less emergency work. You do not need to solve every problem immediately. You only need to notice it before it becomes large. Final recap. Let us go through the 8 vegetables one more time. Radishes produce food quickly and need very little feeding. Bush beans grow without a trellis and produce heavily when harvested often. Swiss chard gives repeated leaf harvests through cool and warm weather. Zucchini produces an enormous amount of food from one healthy plant. Green onions fit into tiny spaces and regrow after cutting. Kale tolerates cold and continues producing for months. Sweet potatoes cover the ground, suppress weeds, and provide edible leaves and roots. And asparagus returns every spring from the same permanent bed. None of these vegetables grows with literally no work. They still need a good start. They need appropriate soil, enough sunlight, water during dry weather, and occasional harvesting. But once established, they ask for far less attention than many other crops. That is the real goal of low-maintenance gardening. Not abandoning the plants. Designing the garden so the plants do more of the work themselves. Choose crops adapted to your season. Cover the soil. Automate watering when possible. Prevent pests before they arrive. Harvest regularly. And grow only what you have time to care for. A busy life does not mean you cannot grow food. It means you need vegetables that forgive missed days, imperfect timing, and occasional neglect. Start with 1 or 2 crops from this list. Give them a strong beginning. Then allow the garden to prove that fresh food does not have to require every free hour you have. If this video helped you find vegetables that match your schedule, hit the like button and share it with another busy gardener. Subscribe for more practical gardening advice that helps you grow more food with less work, less waste, and less frustration. And leave a comment telling me which low-maintenance vegetable has performed best in your garden. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.